We love a good David versus Goliath story. But what happens when it's Goliath versus, well, another Goliath? That's exactly what we're diving into today. The massive showdown between Zillow, the king of real estate, and Google, the undisputed king of, well, everything else. This is a battle for how you and I will find our next home.
So it all kicked off with this one single number. On Monday, December 15th, 2025, Zillow's stock just plummeted. We're talking a drop of over 9% in just one day. Now, for a company the size of Zillow, that's not just a dip. That's a sign that Wall Street is absolutely terrified of something.
So the big question is, what on earth could scare investors that much? I mean, we're talking about Zillow here, a giant in its field. It wasn't some bad earnings report or a big market downturn. Nope. The answer was a lot sneakier, and maybe, just maybe, a whole lot more dangerous for them. All right, let's break down what happened on Zillow's very, very bad day. Because this wasn't some slow-moving train wreck. This was a sudden, out-of-nowhere shock.
And here it is, the culprit. The reason for that massive stock drop? Well, it turns out a new neighbor just moved into the real estate market. And it's a big one. We're talking about Google. Yep, that Google. The company that organizes all the world's information suddenly decided it wanted to start organizing home listings too.
The funny thing is, this didn't come out in some big press conference. It all started when one tech strategist was just messing around on his phone. He spotted something new, took a few screenshots, and boom, that's literally all it took to light a fire under the entire industry.
So what did those screenshots show? Well, they showed a totally new way to search for a home. Imagine you type homes for sale in Austin into Google. Instead of just getting a bunch of blue links, you'd see the actual listings right there on the page. You could look at pictures, check the details, and even contact an agent, all without ever having to leave Google. You can see why Zillow might be a little nervous, right?
Okay, so digging into the details, this test was being powered by a data company called House Canary. And the features? Oh man, they were basically a carbon copy of Zillow's. Now, to be fair, this was just a limited test run. It was only on mobile phones in a few select cities. But the message, it was crystal clear. Google was dipping its toes in the water.
To really get why this is such a huge deal, we've got to pull back the curtain and look at how Zillow actually makes its money. Because it's a powerhouse.
First off, let's just talk about sheer size. In the last quarter, Zillow had an average of 228 million users every single month. That is an absolutely gigantic number of people who are actively looking for a place to live. And that audience right there is Zillow's crown jewel. So how do they turn all those eyeballs into dollars? It's all about something called the Premier Agent Program. Basically, real estate agents pay Zillow a lot of money for one simple thing: to get connected with all those millions of home buyers. At the end of the day, Zillow is a giant, incredibly effective matchmaker for the real estate world. And that is what sets the stage for this epic battle. It's a war for clicks, a war for your attention when you're house hunting. But here's the thing. Zillow has a secret weapon, a huge line of defense. It's not like Google can just flip a switch and win this thing overnight. So, what's Zillow's big defense? It all comes down to how you get there. A whopping 75% of Zillow's users go there on purpose. They're opening the app directly on their phone, or they're typing Zillow.com into their browser. They're not just finding it through a Google search. That brand loyalty, that habit, that's Zillow's castle moat, and it's a big one. So you've got this unstoppable force in Google coming up against a seemingly immovable object in Zillow. It's no wonder that over on Wall Street, the experts are totally split. They just can't agree on how this is all going to play out. The whole debate really boils down to one question. Is this just a little bump in the road for Zillow, or is it a long-term, business-ending threat? In one corner, you have the optimist. They say, hey, Zillow doesn't even need Google for most of its traffic. They'll be fine. But in the other corner, you've got the pessimists, and they're saying, whoa, hold on. Google is going after the one thing Zillow sells, leads for agents. This could crumble their entire kingdom. Let's look at the sunny side of the street first. An analyst from Wells Fargo, Alec Brondolo, made a pretty smart comparison. He said, look at Google Hotels, right? Google didn't kill off sites like Booking.com. It just created a new space where they could all advertise. He thinks the same thing will happen here. Zillow will just become another company bidding for those new ad spots on Google. But then you've got the other side of the coin. Michael Nang over at Goldman Sachs, he's not buying it. He sees this as a huge, long-term threat.
He's arguing that by connecting you, the homebuyer, directly with an agent, Google isn't just building a new ad platform. No, it's becoming a direct competitor to Zillow's most important business, that premier agent program we talked about.
So, where do we go from here? Well, one thing's for sure. This quiet little test from Google has completely shaken things up. The fight for the future of how we all search for our next home, it's really just getting started.
All right, let's wrap this up. What are the big things you need to remember? Number one, just the idea of Google competing was enough to tank Zillow stock. Number two, Google is, in fact, testing its own real estate feature that looks a heck of a lot like Zillow. Three, the real danger here is to Zillow's main moneymaker, that premier agent program. And finally, number four, the experts are completely split on this. Is it a small problem or is it a company killer? Nobody knows for sure. And that leaves us with the $1,000,000 or maybe $1,000,000,000 question. Will Google manage to build a whole new real estate empire from scratch? Or is Zillow's kingdom, with its massive loyal following, just too powerful to fall? The battle for your home search is on.